Sometimes it's not a choice, it's because you're made that way. Some get happy endings and some get to lose. But everybody wants to be Clark and Bruce.
Hello, and welcome to Carnival Personnel's Sideshow. If you are a first-time listener, I'd stop now and go find something more productive to do. And if you're not a first-time listener, well, then apologies right off the front, because it's just me hosting this because sadly, both Biff and Joe have grown-up stuff things to do. Biff is working his fingers to the bone as usual on an insane project where the client is 4 time zones away in one direction and the tech support is 14 hours in the other direction. And anyways, and then Joe, sadly with Joe, he is doing the arduous task of packing up the Lyceum. Anybody who listened to the first couple hundred episodes of this podcast know we recorded at Joe's basement, known as the Lyceum, where it is. We've had so many guests in his basement, and each and every one was more amazed than the next with the absolute awesome, like 20 plus working systems dated back to the late 70s, the absolute library of media for all these game systems. We haven't done it in quite some time, but one of my favorite parts all time of the podcast was we used to do this thing called video game review, where I blindly would reach behind me without Joe looking, pull a game off a shelf, and Joe had to, by the space on the I think it was like 6 bookshelves, the space that was now left, he had to guess which game it was and do a review of it. And the accuracy rate that he had with guessing which game it was and which platform in his review was stellar. But he is having to pack that up because I think it's the first move he's done in 15 years, 16 years, something like that. And so anyway, so apologies for that. But to make up for all of that, we have on a guest that I've wanted to come on for a very long time. This guy is beyond near and dear and special to me. Somebody that both my wife and I love dearly. We've known him through some of the most amazing times in our personal life, some of the most amazing times in my career, and some of the, hardest moments in our life. And, we work through all the ups and downs together. And so, he's gone, he moved to Iowa around the time that we moved to Qatar, but we still remain close. He has been more than a friend and more than a brother and more than a mentor. And I'm finally glad that we are having him on to talk about his musical career, and his career, his absolutely amazing career in the music industry, and many of the friends that I now count as very close that stemmed from his tree of friendship. And with that said, I would like to welcome to the listener ears of Carnival Personnel Podcast Sideshow, the one, the only, Mike Ragogna. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Jacques. Oh my God,
Mike, what's your middle name? What is your middle name?
It's George.
It is George. Okay, I didn't know if it was, and what I thought it might have been derivative of your father's name. Can you tell us what your father's name was?
His name was Attilio.
Which is just great. I mean, you can't get more WAP with it than Attilio Ragogna.
Yeah, I could have been Attilio Jr. He was named after Attila the Hun. Oh, yeah,
and way back in episode 4, Joe and I's and we always refer to it. I can't remember last week's episode, but episode 4 is titled "Daddy Issues," and where your dad was named after Attila the Hun, and I know much of his parenting style up until the very end. I think it's kind of an appropriate name that he had.
Well, Dad.
So let's start at the beginning. I'm gonna, go way back to the beginning. I had a friend. I was in the right place at the right time for a lot of things in my life. A guest on this podcast and just an amazing person, Ronak Kordestani, years ago said, "I am the most Forrest Gump-like person she's ever met." I, by no skill, no hard work, no effort, no abilities, have been in the right place at the right time for many events in my life that just opened doors I didn't know existed. And I had a hockey incident in which I was blind in an eye. I was attacked viciously by somebody. I've always said I was going to post the picture. It's pretty bad. Somebody shot a puck in my eye and hit me in the face with a stick because I quit their hockey team and played against them, and they didn't like that. And a couple months later, I got my eyesight back, and I truly beat this person within an inch of their life on the ice. Actually on the roller rink. So it was roller hockey. Flash forward a couple years later, I don't know how, but I'm sitting and working in the sweatshop with my former partner, this guy named Dave, and right place, right time, DVDs just started. And a guy from MCA Records comes to us and says, "We want to do these 3 DVDs." No one knew what DVDs were. This was truly the infancy, pre-infancy. This is the conception. You know what I mean? This is 4 months into the pregnancy. I don't think the DVD baby's been popped yet. And it's so funny. Nobody knew about DVDs or how they worked, like legally, the mechanics of them. And we got commissioned to do 3 DVDs. One was for U2, which I still to the day have a hard on that I got to do, or I was going to get to do a DVD for U2. The problem was they collected all these videos. There was 21 videos, all from their early career, and the licensing on each video was a clusterfuck and a half, because some of their early videos were small Irish production companies that said, "We need to make a name for ourselves. We'll shoot your video for free." Well, it turns out they own the video. They don't own the license. So the record, Island Def Jam owned the song, but a now been defunct for 30 years video company owns the images that were licensed to MTV, but all this stuff. One of the other 3 that we did was, I believe it was for Tom Petty. And I remember Dave getting the call and putting on speakerphone, and we're listening. It turns out we did the DVD. They sent it to Tom Petty. Tom Petty loved it. And then Tom Petty reminded the label, "I own my videos, right?" Which the record company did not know, that he was smart enough to pay for the production of his own videos and owned it. And now at this point, I mean, when you talk rock in a hard place, they had already put in all the circulars that went out in the Sunday paper for all the brick and mortars that were going to be carrying this DVD. It was already shipped. It was on the way to the stores. It was going to be on the shelves for Black Friday in a time when brick and mortar was everything. And they had to renegotiate with him each and every video to be able to make it legal. Anyways, a year or so later, I get a phone call. I don't know this person. I got a kid. I'm 30. And I think this kid named Jeff, probably the next time he would have shaved was going to be the first. And we go out for this little restaurant, and we're talking. And he goes, "Wait a minute. You're Jacques. I'm like, "Yeah." We're a half hour into a lunch. And he goes, "You're the roller hockey player, Jacques." I'm like, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "Yeah. He started playing in the league the year after I stopped." And he goes, "You're the one who got the puck in the eye, is blind." And I'm like, "Yes." And then he looks, and my eye doesn't dilate. And he's like, "Oh my God." And he starts telling me, the legend. We won 4 straight championships. I was on a celebrity team. I'm not bragging about this because I'm 3 years removed from playing real hockey, like real hockey. on a high-ish level. Now playing roller hockey in Reseda, California, on a Tuesday night, and with a bunch of celebrities. But like the legend of me being blind in an eye and still playing a couple weeks later, me beating the kid nearly to death, and so we formed this fast friendship. And he tells me, and I will never forget. He goes, "I just got the job as the DVD guy at Universal. I can't spell DVD," he jokingly says. About a week later, he brokers, puts together a meeting, and I think I'm going to go meet his boss. He walked me into a conference room with 11 people around a table.
Ugh.
And it's the heads of all the different labels. This is at the height of Napster killing the music industry. And the music industry came up with the idea that each executive was going to lock arms, go down to the ocean, and try to hold the waves back. That was their first plan
Good analogy.
for attacking Napster. And then the second phase was, why don't we come up with DVDs? Because at the time they thought, oh, those can't be hacked. And they signed it over. They gave me the keys to the kingdom. At that meeting, I met a woman who I would go on to absolutely love and adore, named Karen Sherlock, who became, a friend like no other, a mentor like no other. One of the record industry, and I'm going to turn this over to Mike in a few minutes, I promise, but there's an old saying about how awful the record industry is. There's this long list of all these bad things. And then at the end of it, it's like, but there's also a downside. It is a nest of vipers, and it's awful. Everything about all the horrible stories you heard about the record industry is true. Now and then you come across a Mike Ragogna. You come across a Karen Sherlock. You come across, other people that, we might mention by name as we go along. But so Karen, was great. I met her at that meeting. I have to go back to my office, and I'm a rock star because I walk in with this huge deal. I'm given the entire vault. To Universal. And now Dave, who was the tech side of the thing, was like, oh my God, this is great. What the fuck are we going to do? We can't, and now he has to figure this out. And then it was a year before the first PO came through. And I kept having to go to meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, and explain how DVDs work and do test DVDs. I would do a test DVD for Interscope Records, but the people over at MCA be like, well, how would that work for us? It would work exactly the same, but with your artist on the DVD. Oh, and we would have to do a test DVD with one of their art. It cost us thousands of dollars. It cost me 50, 75 taking people to King games and going out to lunches. I'm sorry. It cost John Taylor King games, me using his tickets to take people out to lunches and dinners and Mike's. And here's a publicly traded company at the time, Point 360, saying, we're not seeing anything. And I'm like, it's going to happen. And then Jeff did. Jeff just started giving us so much work. And more work than we physically could do. And at one point, Jeff's like, you need another system, because he would come in with 2 projects, one to clone to send to another vendor to do it, and one for us to do. And I kept going back to the big weeks saying, hey, here's this guy who is just giving us all this work. And it was great. And they couldn't make the capital investment. And we, my team, Dave and I took a team and we went someplace else, and they kind of had some problems keeping their book straight, we'll just politely say. And then it came down to, okay, Dave and I have the client and we have a team that's just great. We had an amazing graphic artist. We had a second to none authorer. Dave was a MacGyver who could, take a bent paper clip, a rubber band and a toaster and somehow make an Avid edit system out of it. We just needed the capital. And, I, through different means was able to secure it, and we started our own company. And that is when my good friend Jeff walked this guy into my office named Mike, who it's one of those things where a stranger You can know you can know an acquaintance for 40 years, but you know you're real friends in the first 5 minutes you meet them. Mike is cut from the same loser cloth that that Joe and I are from. Like the things that he collects, the things that he knows that no person should know this, but he ends up being able to share those obscure facts about music or comic books with the one person on the industry who is as big a loser, whose office looks like a fucking toy store, and thus began the almost close to 20-year friendship I've had with Mike. Apologize for the long-winded thing. Mike, hi.
Hi.
So
how you been?
What are your first recollection walking in, and do you even know one of the first projects that we might have done?
I think first of all, I got to say the same about you. You were like, yeah, those people. They're like instant friends. You kind of know that they're just something, and it wasn't from description or anything. It's like, oh, I'm into this, I'm into that. It's just, you just on a gut level, when somebody's your friend. And I knew that instantly with you too. So thank you for over 20. It's over 20, by the way. We knew each other since I think 2000 or 2001.
Wow. Okay.
So it's like 22 years, whatever. But yeah, we've shared a lot of stuff. You've had a family. I've tried to have a family. I did have a family, but it's you've been great, and I really appreciate your friendship over the years. We've had a lot of adventures together too. It's really pretty wild. But anyway, as far as that first meeting, I have to confess, I don't, I'm an old man and my memory's
yeah, no, I think now that I'm thinking about it, I think you walked into Point 360 before we started the place. You were correct, even before we moved to the second place and the third place. Well, so it's funny. So Mike's a few years older than me. We're completely different, but our lives intersect in some of the funniest, interesting ways. I'm a big comic book guy. Mike, in his youth, and I don't know if it was one of your first paid gigs. Mike, I'm going to lean on you when I post this podcast to follow up on Twitter and maybe Instagram and post some of the things I'm going to ask you to post. You probably still have at your fingertips the album cover, and I mean album. This is back, I think this predates maybe even 8 tracks. You wrote a song for the Spider-Man theme 1974, 75 album? 75 album. I don't know if I saw this at your home or at an office. It's a very iconic picture from the 70s. It might be the most quintessential photo, or the quintessential cell from a comic and the 70s era of Spider-Man, where here's Peter Parker standing dressed as a kid looking into a mirror and seeing Spider-Man, and he's holding the Spider-Man suit in his hand, but in his reflection he's in the Spider-Man outfit. And in the 70s, bands were putting out theme albums and comic books would put out these theme albums, and I think you wrote the song like Peter Stays and Spidey Goes. Am I correct?
Yeah, Peter Stays and Spider-Man Goes. Yep.
Would somebody call me Peter Parker before I go insane? You see, this other guy that I've been lately forgot he had a name. I find super strength and fame ain't all that they're cracked up to be, 'cause the only one that they don't help is me. And the spider's web flew through the air, and it landed on Peter Parker, who didn't even know it was there. As Spider-Man, I learned about those tangled webs we weave. As Peter, I wanna live my life, and it's either him or me. So Peter stays, and the Spider-Man goes. But the spider is only human, and Peter says it's time to spin a web of his own. It's like fighting both sides of a mirror. Well, this crazy war's got me weary, and I can't fight anymore.
And John Romita, you want me to go? John Romita did the cover, and it was really amazing because I was I was a DC fan. Like Jacques, I was a huge DC fan. So I very rarely crossed into Marvel territory. I probably just made a lot of enemies there, but sorry about that. But Marvel, the things I did get into in Marvel were Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer, kind of. It was a little rich, but also Spider-Man. Spider-Man I loved. And I was working at the time. I was working at the for Cashman and West, who wrote songs for the Partridge Family, big television show in the 70s. And from the money, the royalties they made from their songs that were in the Partridge Family, they used to produce Jim Croce. I don't know if any of your listeners might remember Jim Croce, but Jim Croce, Time in a Bottle, You Don't Mess Around with Jim, Bad Bad Leroy Brown. So they used that money to do that. And they also eventually, well, they were producing other acts, Henry Gross, and the money that they made from that, from the Partridge Family royalties, which paid for the Jim Croce initial album, which, by the way, was rejected by every label I know.
Everybody right.
Rejected it. Absolutely everybody. The only reason why the Jim Croce album came out is because Cashman and West were also Terry Cashman and Tommy West. They were also they were also an artist. They were also artists, Cashman and West, on ABC Dunhill. So the only reason why Jim has a deal is because they went to Jay Lasker, who was running the company, and said, "Hey, would you please put this record out? We can't get this placed anywhere." And they treated it like, "Yeah, we'll do you a favor because we really believe in you. We really love you." And then it turned out,
it's a top 10 selling album of the 70s.
Yeah.
And sadly, it gets released and he dies within a year. And I think, I want to say...
There were 3 albums. And
three albums, okay.
Before the third one came out, and right after Bad Bad Leroy Brown was...
Okay.
Yeah, that's when that happened. He recorded I Got a Name for, oh God, what was the movie?
It was a movie.
Great American something.
Right.
It was about stock car racing. But anyway, that's was the other point. So let me cut to the chase. I'm sorry, that was a very tangential, long-winded way to get to the label Life Song. So I had worked after school at Cashman and West's office, and I was the office kid. I did everything from mailroom stuff to recording artists when they came in to submit songs for people like Mary Travers from Peter, Paul and Mary when they were producing her. When artists would come in and submit, they wanted to be produced by Cashman and West, like Livingston Taylor, Aztec Two-Step. I don't know if anybody knows of any of these people, but anyway, there were a bunch of acts which came into the office for that. They produced a guy named Adam Miller, who was another Partridge Family artist, and they took the royalties from those records that they had. Some were hits, some were not. Henry Gross was the biggest hit, and then they ended up starting Life Song Records. Me being the kid in the office, when they got the deal to do an album themed on Spider-Man, they said, and because I was a songwriter and they were developing me as a songwriter and a recording artist, like a kid artist, but they didn't really want me to be out there with records because Cashman and West both grew up on Frankie Lyman, and they were just thinking, oh, kids, they kill themselves if they have any kind of fame or anything like that. And that's what he told me. That legitimately was why they didn't do anything with me at a young age, but they kept developing me. So, but here was an opportunity where behind the scenes I could have a song or two, or possibly even record on the album. But that never happened. But I did write this song, Peter Stays and Spider-Man Goes, based on the key line in there is like the key line is it's like fighting both sides of a mirror, which is what the concept of the album cover is.
Right.
And the cover, and also, that was my life. That's like a teenager growing up. It's like fighting both sides of the mirror. You can't win.
No, I mean, that's the great thing about Spider-Man that we've heard Stan Lee say a billion times is Spider-Man could be anybody, and anybody could relate to it. And the fact that he was a kid is something that Stan Lee always loved, because all superheroes were older. I think the median age of a superhero at the time, Batman is always perpetually 29 years old and stuff like that. that kind of stuff. So the fact that you're a kid writing from a kid perspective, it's fantastic. But that was like the first thing where it's like, okay, here's this guy who just is so into the weeds on this stuff, and the fact that I know of that album, like, I as a kid growing up, just in superhero worship world, I mean, the only things that mattered to me my entire childhood, but if you look around my office, my entire childhood is still, superhero, Star Trek, Star Wars. Like, now there's some Ted Lasso paraphernalia, but it's mostly, superheroes and hockey stuff. So Mike is not what you would call an athlete, but once again, I come to find out, and I don't think I found out till years later. I want to say Mike's next big thing in my book, and he had other successes in between Peter Stays and Spidy Goes, is I want to say that Mike wrote the jingle or the theme song for the 1980 New Jersey Devils.
Oh, yeah.
Well, was it 1980?
It was 1984. 1984, we recorded it at Jimmy Ryan's house. Jimmy Ryan's recording studio. Jimmy Ryan is the guy who does the guitar lead in You're So Vain. Carly Simon, he was her guitar player for years and years, and that's where he mainly got his fame from. He was also part of a group called the Critters. I'm getting tangential again. New Jersey Devils. It's like a ripoff of the Michael Jackson.
Was it a commercial or was it an in-house
I think I don't know how they used it, honestly. I know they didn't use it as a commercial.
Well, you ended up at one point years ago finding it, and you got me a copy, and I ended up you did a new. Am I back on the meth? Did you end up doing an anthem for the New Jersey Devils?
It was no. We pitched that spot. And they used it for something, but I don't know.
No. I mean, did I have you sing a national anthem for the Devils at one point?
Oh, God, yeah, that's where you're going. Yeah, I did. You did. You had.
Okay, well, no, I think you sent me that recording. And usually I get celebrities to do it, but I was able to circle back to the New Jersey Devils and say, hey, this guy was there at the birth of the Devils. This guy is Mr. Devil. And I sent them. Somehow you had that link to that song, whether they used it in-house or the commercial, but you had, and the person who ended up, I ended up booking it through, Boss, has been with the Devils since like day one.
Nice.
They remembered it, and they're like, yeah, we're going to get this guy in here to do an anthem.
That's sweet. Oh, that's great.
So a lot of the listeners are my beloved F&H guys, and they will all know this. I believe it was 83 or 84 that Wayne Gretzky, it's one of the few times he was on the negative side of a PR thing. He had referred to the New Jersey Devils as a Mickey Mouse organization, which did not sit well with the fan base of New Jersey. He was right. I mean, they were the epitome. The term dumpster fire that is so widely used now, I believe originated, in referring to the early 80s New Jersey Devils. And what's really funny is one of the teams that I played on, I'm going to say 88, 89, 86, somewhere in there. I played for a team called the Northeast Junior Devils. Technically, the rink is on the border of Nashua, New Hampshire, and Kingborough, Mass. But we were listed as a Nashua team. It was a junior B team out of Nashua. Technically, the rinks, it's like one of those things, like the New York Giants playing the Meadowlands in New Jersey. But we got the hand-me-downs from the New Jersey Devils minor league team. So, so all the, elbow pad, shoulder pad, like everything that wouldn't pass mustard for their AHL team, came down the pike to us. So our practice jerseys were their practice jerseys from the season before and all that stuff. So another weird connection that it's like, here you are, Brett. I was able to use that. I'm looking at some of the other things that we've done together.
Thank you for that.
So I also had Mike do an anthem. And I'm going to touch on how I got to do all the anthems with the celebrities. Once again, direct correlation with Mike. But I felt bad. This story, oh my God, it's awful. I get Mike doing the anthem for the Phoenix Coyotes.
Yeah.
And they're going to play, I think it's like a Saturday afternoon, 1 p.m. game. So the plan is Mike's going to come and pick me up, and we're going to drive to Phoenix, which is about an 8-hour drive. I do it once a year with Biff for the last decade. But Mike and I are going to drive. Mike had the absolute misfortune of coming to my house to pick me up about a half hour after the New England Patriots lost an infuriating game to the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Biff and Joe, my beloved brothers who I do this podcast with, both of them have been at ground zero when I've gone through Patriot losses. Anybody who knows the Patriots well will know the game I'm referring to. The Patriots are up. The Patriots are up by 3 points or 4 points. They're up by 3 or 4 points. And it's 4th and 1 from their own 30-yard line. And 95% of the time you're going to punt the ball. But their defense was so bad and Peyton Manning was so good that Belichick knows if we get this 4th down, if we pick up this 4th and 1, the game's over. We can take a knee and run out the clock. If we can get 1 yard on this 4th down play, but if by any means we have to give the ball back to Peyton Manning, he's going to march down the field. I mean, Peyton was hot. As much as I say how much I hate Peyton Manning, and I don't. I mean, the guy's great on the field and off. But Bill Belichick made that decision to go for it on 4th and 1. They don't get the first down. It's like you need it 1 yard. It's like the old Rodney Dangerfield commercial where they're bowling in the Bud Light commercial. We only need 1 pin, Rodney. And it goes right down the middle and hits a pin and bounces into the gutter. They need it 1 yard. So poor Mike has to drive 8 hours with me not talking. Just absolutely. And here's Mike. Hey, you want to stop here to eat? And I'm Roy Kent at this point. I'm speaking in monotone grunts, and it's like, I'm pissed. I'm angry. I hate everything and everybody. And here's Mike in his small car, 8 hours going through the desert with me. And I swear he's waiting for me to just swerve the car off into the desert and bury his body, up to his neck. And so that's bad. Then we get to the hotel, and Mike's like, oh, we can share a room. And I'm like, no, Mike. I snore really bad, and Mike doesn't have any roommates, and and he doesn't know. And I'm like, no, Mike, I'm telling you, I snore really bad. He goes, it will be fine. I wake up in the morning, and at one point in the morning, 3 a.m., Mike's like, after spending 8 hours with an absolute angry prick in a small car not talking to him, he then gets chased out of his own hotel room.
That was great.
Am I exaggerating any of that?
Not at all. No. The fun. Yeah, no. I think you were surprised. You woke up in the morning and I was in another hotel room. I rented another room.
Yeah, just in the middle of the night, Mike got up, didn't take any of his stuff, just went downstairs, said, I need a room. And I think they gave you could just come because you're only going to be there a few hours. I think they have mercy on you. So Mike, and then we did. Then Mike did the Coyote anthem and absolutely killed it. Absolutely killed it. I think I had you do a baseball game too at one point.
Yeah, Bakersfield.
Okay, like a minor league thing. Yeah.
They warned me before I went on. They were a little afraid. They said, "You're going to be okay. You're not going to be making any announcements or making any stands or anything, are you?" And I'm like, "No, I'm here to sing the national anthem." That was great. Now that was all of them. All of those opportunities. I think I did 5, 6, whatever it was, were great. I loved doing that. That was a lot of fun.
Now, how did I get into that world, Mike?
You tell the story better, so much better than I do.
So, Jeff, our friend Jeff, our friend Mike, our dear friend Mike, probably a guy named Don Robinson, and Karen Sherlock were probably our four biggest clients. Collectively, Universal Music Group was 80% of our music.
Yeah.
Dave and I had started a company called Spitfire Media, and it was a gorgeous office on 4th Street in Santa Monica. But you guys were our bread and butter. So Mike comes in and he plays the friend card. And he sits in my office and he goes, so we have, so Universal had, I think it's called an imprint label. Is that it? An imprint?
Was it New Door?
New Door Records. Yeah. So Universal Music Group started a new label for artists of note who don't have a record deal at the time, but on their own recorded an album. So if somebody came in of note and said, hey, you don't have to pay for this album, here's my album, and make a distribution deal. And Tears for Fears was one of those artists. And I think, we did a lot of stuff for Tears for Fears. Somehow I think between Mike and Jeff, I think we did 3 DVDs best of for Tears for Fears. I thought they had 2 songs,
yeah.
But somehow we did 3 DVDs for Tears for Fears, which were on New Door. So Mike tells me, look, we got this album and we're probably going to drop it. It hasn't hit the sales number we hope, but we're contractually obligated to shoot a music video for Billy Ray Cyrus. Oh, actually, no. Spitfire is done. I left Spitfire at this point. I'm at a new company. I'd started a new company. That's when you came in, and you're like, and it was like the divorce where half the when you're a couple and you get divorced and half the friends that you had coming into the marriage, or you go with one side and half go with the other, and so Dave kept the kids and I kept Mike. So Jeff was still working with the Dave and the Spitfire guys who just did great work, and I was starting something new. Mike comes in my office and says, look, we have to do a music video. Like, we have no money. We have $10,000, but we're contractually obligated to do a music video for this guy, even though, unfortunately, I think, and Mike loved the album. You worked your ass off for the album. It's called Wanna Be Your Joe. It was a really good album. I don't think it got the backing from the people it needed to get the backing from, but you came to me and said, will you do this music video? And I'm like, I haven't done a music video in like 15 years at that point, but you knew I had background producing music videos, some that made it to MTV. So, when I came out of film school, I had a friend named Greg who just did a movie, who came from music video world. He was a ghostwriter. He wrote all the Britney Spears for Gregory Dark. When Gregory Dark went from porn to directing music videos, he hired Greg to write all these Britney Spears videos. So Greg was always a bridesmaid, never got a chance to direct the video. So he said, well, I just did this movie. It's a fun movie called Greetings from the Shore that starred Paul Savino. But he had 15,000 feet of film left over, which that film was more than the budget that Interscope or Universal had for the whole picture. So between the film that he had and the $10,000 from Universal, and then Greg threw in some money, and I pulled a lot of favors, we shot this music video for Billy Ray Cyrus. I haven't set the name yet, but Mike comes to me knowing that I'm a grunge guy, knowing that Jeff had the audacity to bring Stuart Copeland into my office and introduce me as a drummer, which I quickly, here's Stuart fucking Copeland in my office. We're doing a DVD, and Jeff's like, yeah, Jacques a drummer too. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? No, like I'm the equivalent of one of those, Five Below dime store wind-up monkeys that clap the cymbals, and you are talking to a fucking drumming god. Honestly. And I quickly corrected Jeff. I'm like, dude, I count to 4 kind of fast in a grunge band. And oh my God, was Stuart Copeland just the best. It was like, so Jeff brings Stuart Copeland in my world, and Mike brings fucking Billy Ray Cyrus.
Hey, what can I say?
So I start putting the wheels together. Greg writes a treatment, and we're going to do this shoot. It's going to be a 2-day shoot with Billy Ray. I get a corner bar, and actually this kid Todd, who I was working with at the time, great guy. I had 2 partners, Paul and Todd, just the best guys. Todd lived right next to this corner bar. He was kind of a regular there, like 3 doors down from him. And so we ended up shooting like on some Tuesday afternoon, something like that.
Yeah.
Here's where it became really fun. We put out a call on like Craigslist. We got a bunch of actors. We made it into a country bar. And the backing band was all Mike's friends at Universal.
Yeah, Dax was the drummer, and yeah.
Do you remember the other guys? Because I remember he was a drummer. Somebody was the guitar player, bassist. But it was all your buddies from the office who were real musicians. They're real musicians.
Oh, Robert McRae.
Rob McRae.
He's one of them.
Great guy. He reached out to me a couple of years ago. He's moved back home to like North Carolina. He was on a project and he reached out and we played catch up. Really great guy, but such a fun shoot. And then Mike was kind of the king of the extras. You helped be the extra wrangler. You were featured in the video. So what ends up happening is, sadly, the video comes out and it is absolutely, it's a great video, but it's a country music video you've seen 10,000 times. The song "I Want to Be Your Joe" is a love song from a husband to a wife, and Greg came up with this great storyline. It was fun. It was absolutely great. It was absolutely a great shoot. What ends up happening over the next couple weeks is the album gets dropped by Universal drops Billy. So now he has this video, nobody to push it, nobody to promote it. And that's it. And at the time, him and one of his daughters and Miley had the same management company, and there were some disagreements where, it must have been an awkward time because the management company is going to keep managing Miley, who's a minor, who needs Billy to sign off on them to continue managing her, but drop him as a client.
Right.
So here's Billy getting ready to do a summer tour with no manager and no client, no manager, no label, and this new video. Also, at the time, Billy tells me flat out, the guy who is head of programming at CMT does not like him. I did not know this at the time.
God.
When Achy Breaky went number 1, it went number 1 on every chart around the world except country in the United States. It went number 1 everywhere except country in the United States because the guy who was head of programming at the time for like Clear Channel, whatever the big conglomerate was, did not think pop and country should ever intermix. That was a big fucking no-no. And this guy did not like Billy Ray Cyrus. The whole world loved that song. He did a stadium tour. It went number 1 in every fucking chart except country. Now, and I'm not being a smart mouth when I say this, Achy Breaky, it's on all the lists for the worst songs and for this or that. That song made country pop. It was the first time that it merged pop and country like that. And so all the pop country artists who came after that, he literally laid on the barbed wire for you to walk over, to do it.
That's a good way to put it. Jacques, I went through the similar thing when I was part of a male duo, country duo called
The Almost Brothers.
Almost Brothers. It was all set up. I mean, there were stations that really loved our singles, and our album sold 10,000 copies, regardless of not having like huge hits. We had local regional hits, but the point is that it was right at that time when big hats had come back, because there was a lot of Nash Vegas. There was a lot of, Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers and all of that, and Dan Seals. So country had been already, trying to transition to pop, but every time it tries to transition to pop, here come the big hats.
Right.
So that was that period. I know exactly what Billy Ray. But Billy Ray, to your other point, though, you are exactly right. Achy Breaky Heart, my feeling is that Achy Breaky Heart opened up country to people who would who liked pop, and people who were looking for that other thing other than listening to the latest pop stuff. Because what was on the radio? Still, it was like the tail end of flannel, a lot of rap, and boy bands. And it's like, something like Achy Breaky Heart, which happened earlier, of course. But my point is that he opened up country music to a lot of people that would not have listened to it.
But flash forward, umpteen years later, that guy is now head of CMT. And it doesn't matter if Billy Ray had walked in with Smells Like Teen Spirit in 1991. This guy wasn't going to play it. Yeah. So I don't know Billy that well. I spent a few days with him. Absolutely a great guy. Absolutely was great. It was, and here I'm a grunge guy. You know what I mean? It's like, I think one of the other great projects that I did for Jeff, we did a Sonic Youth box set. And in the menu section, like, we filmed me walking around the tape vault of this place that we work. Like, so the fact that I'm in a Sonic Youth, that's my thing. I'm Sonic Youth. You know what I mean? I'm Sonic Youth. I'm the Sex Pistols. I'm everything but Billy Ray Cyrus. But now here I am.
Yeah, but Jacques, you have another story about another video with Billy Ray, don't you?
Well, we're going to get there.
Okay.
And so because Mike, Mike and I are working with Billy Ray. He's dropped by the label, but Mike behind the scenes is fucking making phone calls. He's working the album. He's helping. He's kind of filling in some of the, management duties that, that Billy needed at the time and making this album. At the same time, my buddy Greg invested personally money out of pocket, donated the film, comes up with this great video. If it doesn't see the light of day, it doesn't help his career. I don't know what the fuck Great American Country is, but somebody tells me, it's like, oh, send it to Great American Country. And it might have been you, somebody inside. It turns out Great American Country is the fuse to MTV.
Right.
It's the little brother. It's the redheaded stepchild. Whatever analogy we want to throw in there. Well, I don't look. Again, me being Forrest Gump. I'm not a smart man, but I'm.
Yes, you are.
But I'm trying to think. It's like the way I describe Billy Ray sometimes. He's dumb as a fox.
Yeah. Oh, he's good.
He wants you to think. There's nothing Billy Ray does better than to make you think he's a fucking dumb hick. That guy is fucking sharp, man. He is. But he plays. Shucks. He plays the shucks hillbilly thing just enough. So you think you're going to underestimate this motherfucker, and then, man, he comes out of nowhere with like the Mike Tyson haymaker. So I kind of do that. I call Great American Country, and I say, look, I'm a producer. I just did this amazing video for Universal Music Group. I know that it's going to be huge, but what if I give Great American Country a 30-day exclusive before we give it to CMT? Well, they have no idea that CMT is going to play no matter what. I can literally walk in there with the biggest-breasted porn star, a bag of cocaine, and a Scrooge McDuck pile of money and say, hey, you think we can get a couple spins here? Like, and let's be honest, that's how music worked through the 70s and 80s. We know it. But it wasn't going to matter. CMT wasn't going to play it. But I go to Great American Country, and I say, hey, how about this? You know, and they do. Not only do they lose their shit, oh my God, we're getting a Billy Ray exclusive. It goes to number 3 almost instantly. Yeah. It was Rascal Flatts' song from Cars, and
yeah,
I think Carrie Underwood, like, Jesus is my co-pilot, or Jesus take the wheel. Those were 1 and 2. Billy stayed number 3 for over 10 weeks. On Great American Country. Great American Country, you know, but to promote it, Great American Country calls me back and says, would Billy want to do an hour countdown to the video, to the premiere of the video? And I'm like, yes, of course, let's do it. Then I call Billy and I say, hey, guess what you're going to do? You know? And Billy's like, well, what am I going to play? I'm like, dude, it's an hour. You can play every video of yours leading up to this. They don't give a fuck. They're giving you an hour of airtime.
Yeah.
So I did that not for Billy, I did that for Greg, but it directly benefits Billy. You're helping from the you're helping from the Universal side, move pieces around, get them swag, get them copies of this. You're still kind of playing you're the A&R guy in the album. So even though it's not under your Interscope day job thing, your name is still the producer, A&R guy. You're still pushing the rock up the hill.
Yeah, I mean that's nice of you. I didn't get the producer credit, although there's a track on there called "Kicking the Gas."
Yes,
bonus track. I did co-produce that with Billy in the studio with the Universal Mastering.
Oh,
we recorded it there. Yeah.
So now I'm knee deep into Billy. So Billy is now out on tour. He has this video going for him that's number 3 on Great American Country. He has this hour thing. And Billy calls me and he says, look, and it was a late night call. The phone rings and I don't know where he was, but I look down and it's like 1 in the morning-ish. And I look at, management, my wife, and I'm like, why is Billy calling? And he's like, dude, the label isn't behind me. Management isn't behind me. The one thing I've had going for me the last few months is this video and your work.
Yeah.
Will you manage me? And I'm like, dude, this is Jacques you're calling. You know what I mean? It's like, did you misdial? Did you call the wrong number? So I said, yeah. Because
remember, he's smart. He made a good decision.
He is smart. So he ends up saying to me, and so I'm like, okay, let's talk in the morning. I think about it, and I'm like, Billy, the album, the label, Mike agrees with me, but the rest of Universal did you wrong. You have a song on your album called "I Want My Mullet Back." Yep. Now, I Want to Be Your Joe, and I'm honest. I'm like, it's a great song. It's fucking boring. It's a great song, but we've heard it. We've heard this song 1,000 times from 1,000 artists. It's a great country love song, but there's nothing special.
Can I ask you just did Bob Mercer choose that? I think Bob chose that, didn't he?
I don't know, but Bob Mercer, I have him on my notes. We are going to get to Bob Mercer.
Right.
So I say to Billy, okay, you've been made fun of the last 20 years because of your mullet, but you fucking have the cojones to write a love song to the mullet? Dude. And I tell him, I'm like, dude, mullet is the first cousin to hockey hair. Yeah. I said, I got some friends around the NHL, different places that I can have you do something. Why don't you come over tomorrow? We're going to shoot a music video for the mullet song. He's like, what? What are you talking about? YouTube was brand fucking you. I mean, honestly, again, here's another Forrest Gump moment where YouTube is in its infancy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, there's no more barrier to entry. You're gonna. And I call my friend Matt, who worked for me, who worked with me. I shouldn't say for me. Another great kid, a fucking sweetheart, hardworking son of a bitch, cool kid. I'm like, hey, I know you shoot stuff. Come over. We're gonna shoot this music video. Billy shows up, blind, cold, no entourage, nobody. Just Billy comes to my house, and I live. I live right on the line of Venice and Marina del Rey, right at the Venice Pier. He's wearing a T-shirt that says like "Pro Mullet,"
Right.
and I think about it that night. I don't know what I'm going to do when he gets there, but I ran to a store, got a couple mullet wigs. Matt and his friend, he brings a friend of his, and we start right at the Venice Pier. We walk a mile down Venice Boulevard. And we come back. That's it. And we shoot it as like kind of a rap video where Billy is playing his guitar and he's flanked by his mullet wearing posse guys. I'm one of the two mullet wearers.
I was going to say, who was that?
And I'm holding, because it's kind of a rap video, you got to have like, the boombox blaring. Here I'm holding a pink Hello Kitty boombox as we walk 1 mile down and then come back. And then, our friend Diane, who's living with us at the time, she is also in film school. So she has some access to gear. So Billy goes home, and he's going on tour like the next day or the day after. Now he puts me in contact with his brother, Mick. When you see Billy Ray Cyrus on a TV show playing that, oh shucks, salt of the earth, just good natured guy, he's playing his brother Mick. Like Mick is the guy that Billy portrays on screen all the time. Mick, truly, aside from being a Minnesota Viking fan, everybody has their flaws. I would gladly lay down in traffic for Mick. Nicest guy I've got to work with, maybe ever in music. Straight shooter. His wife, who's a big PR person in the country world, like a huge PR person in the country world. The two of them, I want to say power couple, but Mick ain't a ladder climbing, stab somebody back. He tormented Smiley, and when she was young, and I mean, for no other reason than he was going to shield her from the bullshit as long as he possibly could. You know what I mean? Let her be a kid as long as she could be a kid in that world. Anyways, yeah. So Billy comes, shoots a video, he goes, and then I reach out to Mick. I'm like, if you play this in concert, you could just shoot it and send it to me. Send me whatever you have. So over the next couple of weeks, I get all these high 8 tapes, and Matt edits together this music video. And I bring it over to Billy's house, and Billy just loses his shit. Just absolute. And then he hands me this book. It's a history of mullets. It's a fun little, like maybe 30-page book. He's the last page. And he's like the patron saint of mullets at it. And it's like, can we put this picture in the video? I'm like, motherfucker, why didn't you give me this to start with? Of course we're going to put this in. So the video fade. Dude, I put it up on YouTube. It has like, again, not everybody knows what YouTube is. Hundreds of thousands of hits in a matter of days. Billy's daughter, who's now a big success, Noah Cyrus, she would not go to school in the morning unless he played the video for her for like a month. And so now so at the same kind of time, this is happening. We end up, so now I send it out to the NHL. And this is why you got to do the anthems, because now I didn't know about it, but I'm like, hey, let me send it to, I had a friend of a friend, a contact for the Phoenix Coyotes, which is why you got to do the Phoenix Coyotes. So I send it to them. They fucking love it. And like, we want to do a mullet night. So I have Billy come and do a national anthem. And in between the first and second period, he, and I think you had these guitars in your office. They were going to do a promotion. It never happened. You have these signed Billy Ray guitars.
That's right. That's right.
And so I book him to do it. They fly us out there, pick us up. and it's just Billy and I. It's Billy, Mick, and I. It's just Billy, Mick, and I. Like Billy's right hand guy, his valet, his go to guy, his muscle, his brother, his everything. And we go out, and it's awesome. He sings the anthem. Love or hate his songs that he puts out, whatever. I've now done over 100 celebrity anthems in NASCAR, NFL, baseball, everywhere in between, second to none. And the reason his anthem is so fucking good is he believes it. It is not a song to him. It literally comes from the heart, and it's special. Yeah. So we do it, and then in between the first and second period, they went around the stadium and just started pulling people out of the crowd with mullets, lined them up on the red line, and while the video's playing and cutting back and forth, and it's like the wacky morning DJ guy, So here's Billy, and he picks the best mullet, hands the kid a signed guitar. I will post these pictures.
That's great.
So then, what ends up happening? Great American Country calls back and says, our biggest rating day of the year is Thanksgiving. Would Billy want to do a Thanksgiving special? I'm like, well, tell me what's it going to be? He goes, it can be anything it wants. It can be 2 hours, it can be 3 hours. Because the video did so well, I'm like, yes, 100% we will do the Thanksgiving special.
Yeah.
Then I call Billy and I say, hey, you're doing this. You're going to do this special. And so now we're in the thick of things. So I had so much fun doing that anthem. I didn't know what I was fucking doing. I just started blindly calling teams around the NFL and saying, hey, do you want Billy Ray Cyrus to come do your anthem? Some of them are national TV. You're singing in front of 100,000 people, 80,000 people. It's a fun weekend. You're flying first class. They pick you up in a limo, all this shit. And I'll do a whole show one day going through the 20 I did with Billy Ray. Each one was better than the next. You're not supposed to have that much fun doing this shit. We're getting on a plane once, and Billy's like, hey, what's going on with the Thanksgiving special? When are they sending a script? I call Great American Country when we land. I'm like, hey, you said we're going to shoot this early October. It's late September. What are we doing about our script? Oh, we're sorry about the confusion. We thought you were writing the script.
Oh, geez. I didn't know that.
Neither did I. Guess who wrote the script?
Did you write it?
Yeah, so I talked to Billy, and we're like, okay, well, we came up with this. We'll make Thanksgiving dinner at his house. It will go sideways. They'll order takeout type thing. But they told us we can do whatever we want. So Billy, Matt, and I ended up shooting 3 more videos off that album.
Is that right?
We just
went and saw them. I gotta check that out. I never knew.
We just went and shot it. It was Turkey Day with Billy Ray. And it's funny because just recently Noah Cyrus is now blown up. I get a call from Noah Cyrus's album. We shot a music video, and one of the music videos was a love song from Billy to Miley about watching her grow up. And so for the early footage of Miley, we used Noah and Billy.
That's wild.
So here's Sony Records calling me a couple months ago saying, do you have that footage? Because we want to use that footage in a new video. I don't. I looked everywhere. It cost me a few $100 to have somebody go through this storage and all this stuff back in LA. The camera guy thinks he has it, but just doesn't have the time to go through hundreds of hours of old tape in the storage and see if we can find it. But we did. So we ended up shooting. I got to meet Billy's mom. So, we flew to Nashville. I spent the week on Billy's ranch. There's a made for Netflix movie about my week on the ranch with Billy Ray. Just me and Billy. Just me and Billy in this fucking mansion. And then literally we had this weird, we fly in it's something like we fly in on Thursday night, Friday night, Thursday night. We fly in on Thursday night. Friday, he does a national anthem mullet night with the Thrashers, the Nashville Predators. We get on a plane, somebody picks us up at 4 a.m, and we fly to Cleveland, where he's doing a national anthem on Sunday morning for the Cleveland Brown games. We come back We shoot the Thanksgiving special. It was like a 15-hour shoot. The next morning, Billy gets up because he's meeting Miley in St. Louis to do the national anthem for Game 2 of the World Series. But then 3 days later, or 2 days later, he's meeting me in Houston, Utah, to do a Utah Jazz. So in the span of like 5 days, I have him do an NHL, an NFL, a Major League Baseball, and a basketball. Just flying, and in between that, shoot this Thanksgiving special. The Thanksgiving, it's 3 hours long. We showed all 4 videos that I produced for Billy Ray. It's another fuck up that was great is Billy Ray and Miley. I have footage the very first time Miley appears as Miley, not as Hannah Montana, is at a Boys and Girls Club 3-song set at the Santa Monica Pier.
Oh, wow.
And it's just Billy and Miley. There's no backing band. It's just them. They sing to a track. They sing a Miley song. Then they sing Mullet together. And then they sing a song from Hannah Montana together. If there was one more 9-year-old on that pier, it would have collapsed into the Pacific Ocean.
Well, that was the period of that's right. All the malls were having the child stars coming.
It's Hannah Montana, but this is a Disney sponsored event, but she's appearing as Miley for the first time. I called Disney. And through Billy's connection, I get to the people putting this event on, and I'm like, hey, I'm doing this project for Billy Ray. Can I shoot this footage? I won't use Miley. I won't use this, whatever parameters you want, but I want this concert footage of Billy doing the song. Yeah. And they're like, you can shoot the whole thing. I'm like, are you sure? They're like, yeah, let me send you an email. Let me give you the green light. Let me send you passes. They just send us everything. We go and shoot everything. We just document the whole day. 2 years later, I get a call, and they wanted to use that footage of Miley for something. They're like, "Oh, do you have this footage?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." And then they're like, "Okay, can you send it to us?" I'm like, "I actually paid about $1,000 because I had to hire the 3 camera guys. Out of pocket, it cost me $1,000." And they're like, well, those are Disney stars under contract to Disney at a Disney event. So technically, we have the right to that footage, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, let me see. And I'm bullshitting the guy. I'm like, well, what is your email address? Let me follow up. He gives me his email address. I'm sitting in my loft, Marina Del Rey, overlooking Hananos and the pier, that place at Ellen and I live with that sweet loft. And I send the guy the release that Disney had given me, giving me the green light to shoot it and own the footage in perpetuity. And I hear his computer ping. I'm like, oh, I just sent you an email. And the guy looks it up and he's like, dear Mr. Lambert, blah, 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 blah. Okay, we're going to call you back. Because I sent him the release, and then they like, it's like, yeah. I'm like, dude, all you got to do is reimburse me for what it cost me out of pocket.
Did they eventually?
No, Disney, you might not know this, but Disney never has had any money ever. They're broke. They've been broke since 1926. Like they
pay their stars like nothing.
Nothing. So they wouldn't even pay for the. I'm like, dude, I paid for that footage. Just pay me what it cost me, and you can have it. So, Mike, that's all you. And so, flashing forward, we did that. So I got to manage Billy Ray for almost a year. I was on 20 planes with him. I got to be friends with Billy, but I got to be great friends with Mick and his awesome wife. I got to meet his mom, who was just great woman. His dogs, it was fun. It was a fun ride. I'm still friends with him to this day. You mentioned Bob Mercer.
Yeah.
Tell people who Bob Mercer is.
He ran EMI. Oh God, he has such an amazing history. He ran EMI. He's best known for signing. One of the things he's best known for is signing the Sex Pistols. He also had the caveat of, I don't always sign acts whose music I totally appreciate or like. But because he also signed Queen, he signed Kate Bush, Olivia Newton-John. my God, so many things. And, that was around, I think in 1977 is when I guess the Sex Pistols had that they cursed on television or whatever it was, and then EMI drops them right after that.
I think I don't think they were on EMI a month.
Yeah.
They signed their deal with EMI in front of Buckingham Palace. Like there was a very famous thing that they signed their contract with EMI in front of Buckingham Palace. And this is after Malcolm McCleary pulled that boat stunt where he went up and down the Thames blasting God Save the Queen because it was banned. They get arrested. EMI says, we're going to take these guys. It was after they got dropped from their first label. So Mike knows how much I live for the Sex Pistols and I live for Queen. And Mike took me
maybe Queen
one-on-one lunches with a fucking legend of legend, Bob Mercer.
He liked you a lot, by the way.
I of all the rock and roll stories I've heard firsthand, Bob Mercer, okay, I live for the Sex Pistols. Live for the Sex Pistols. Fuck that, take that all off the table. The thing that Bob Mercer did that deserves to be a movie that I've written a spec treatment for, that I've tried to push and push and push. We were in a little Italian restaurant, I think walking distance or pretty close to the Capitol Record Building. You're over at Capitol at the time. We go out to lunch with Bob. We shut the restaurant down. It's an hour lunch that goes 3-4 hours. I don't know how much food Bob ate, but
yeah, the munchies.
Let's say driving home from that lunch was probably ill-advised. If this was the Uber era, I would have left my car there and Ubered home.
Yeah.
It's like I'll pick a lane. Well, if they stayed in one place, I would. Anyways,
it's no secret that Bob was on medicinal marijuana.
And we had there was some beverages involved, but Bob might have created the music video genre. And Bob Mercer tells me and Mike the most amazing story ever. Bohemian Rhapsody comes out. Nobody will play a 7-minute song. Nobody's going to fucking play a 7-minute song. But he wants to get them on top of the pops. He knows it will break. The only way you get on top of the pops if it's a #1 song. So this wasn't the most original thing because people had done this before, but Bob hired a bunch of housewives to go to every record store around London and buy the album. It got no airplay, but yet was the #1 song, the #1 selling record in England. Well, Top of the Pops says, we want them on to play the song. You can't do that song live in a small studio with Queen. You know what I mean? They're not a small studio. Look, when we did the Police thing with Stuart Copeland walked into my office, a PAL 3/4 from 1978, the old gray whistle test. And Sting's eyes, he has to wear sunglasses because his eyes got infected from the makeup because he had shot Dune the day before.
Right. Oh, God.
And it's just the three of them in a cable access studio. And here's Stuart Copeland playing a fucking 4-piece drum set. A fucking 4-piece 2-cymbal drum set. And I say to Stuart, it's like, to see you play in a small stripped down set. He goes, no, that wasn't stripped down. That was my drum kit. But as we got bigger, the company kept sending me more and more drums. It's like, he goes, you look at the footage from the tour we did for Ghost in the Machine. I only hit the same 4 drums. 99% of the beats were played on the same 4 drums. Yeah. And the same 2 cymbals. Anyways, but you can't do that with Queen.
Hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, Queen can't play in a fucking cable access studio. But the rule is you can only be on top. They'll only show a video on Top of the Pops if it's a #1 song and you're not available because you're on tour. So Mercer, that fucking cheeky bastard, books a fictitious tour. just books studios in just books venues in the U.S. No intention of showing up, sending deposits to lock the studio to book this fictitious tour, because what's going to happen when that song hits Top of the Pops? They're going to make that money back 100 times over. And that's what really made Queen Queen. The Bohemian Rhapsody video saw the light. So that's what they shot the Bohemian Rhapsody video for, to be played on Top of the Pop. And here's fucking Bob Mercer and this little Italian restaurant telling me and you the story. And every 2 minutes, I have to pick my fucking jaw up off the ground. And I'm like, holy shit, the shit that I've heard. So Mike goes from Universal over to Capitol, and
so did Bob. That's how that works. Bob went over. I think he was there. He was there after I'd gone over.
Okay,
and that's why you and I were with him. Yeah. But we had I thought because of New Door. I thought we met with him before.
Oh no, we had met with him several times, but this particular lunch where he tells me, how he fucked over Top of the Pops, the absolute charts, how he manipulated the system. It was like, holy fuck, is this just absolutely? And it's firsthand. It wasn't, a guy at the label, somebody else. Like, no, this is how we did it. This is how we booked it. I hired this guy to book the tour. We wrote the checks. We sent the checks to go to the venues just long enough, and then they canceled a lot of the checks because they just needed Top of the Pops people to verify that they were going to be out of the country on a tour. But you take me to the Capitol building. The Capitol building that everybody has seen in every movie. Our friend Bill Fay blew it up in Independence Day. It is something that everybody should go see once. It's this iconic building that is supposed to look like a bunch of 45s on a record player. What's funny about it is how tiny it is when you're inside there.
Yeah. I'm in my lifetime, I've had what's beautiful is I had an office in the Capitol Tower, and it had a pretty nice view. It was
great view.
It was. I mean, in my lifetime, I had that. I'm very appreciative of that. That was really sweet. But yeah, navigating that building, navigating the floors, and to know where people's offices were, there's nothing definitive because it was all pretty generic, top to bottom.
Right.
That studio, but of course, the studio is really an addition to the Capitol Tower.
Oh,
that studio,
gorgeous.
One of the best studios ever created was in that building. Also,
I don't know.
And that parking lot, Ed, most people don't know. Maybe let's just turn them on to it. The parking underneath the parking lot were all of the echo chambers.
Right. Yeah. Where they did so. I don't know if it was you or our good friend Dennis who gave me. Oh fuck! Why am I blanking on the Beach Boy guy?
Which
Brian Wilson.
Brian Wilson. Okay.
I shot Brian Wilson. I did a DVD. We shot Brian Wilson in the Capitol recording studio for a DVD, and it was one of those. Oh my god! I can't believe I'm working with Brian Wilson. Like, it was another company that was shooting the concert, and I was shooting the shooting of the concert for the DVD bonus footage. So I was doing the DVD, I was producing the DVD, and shooting the bonus content of the concert that was being shot by another production company, and those guys were great. But to shoot in the Capitol building, it's just, and then it was shortly after he had a stroke. And it was one of those things, he had no facial movement, but he was just playing the shit out of everything. And I remember getting notes that like his wife didn't like how he looked in this shot or that shot. And it's like, he has facial paralysis. It's like this from shot. And it was one of those notes that you got where you're looking around and you're trying to figure out how to tell this person. It's like, dude, it's a statue. You know what I mean? It's like,
man, did that ever come out?
Yeah, that came out.
I didn't know.
I shot a couple other things for you guys, but just being over in that office, and then I ended up becoming friends with a couple other people through you and the video department downstairs. A guy named Colin Wyatt, who's still there today.
Colin has my birthday.
Oh, really? You guys have the same birthday?
everybody would make a fuss about Colin's birthday, and here I am. It's like, oh, it's my birthday too.
Yeah, but Colin's a great guy.
I've been doing for you, forever.
And I text with him all the time. Took up bagpipes a few years ago, actually. Absolute sweetheart, absolute. And I think his boss was was Danny Lockwood over at Capitol, or was that Sony Music? I'm thinking. But through you, I end up meeting Dennis. I end up meeting Colin. I end up meeting Danny Lockwood. Your boss over there, the English woman, Jane.
Yeah.
She thought I was insane. Am I right? Or did she not?
I ever tell you what she said to me? She said, she calls me into her office and she goes, your buddy Jacques, is he okay? Is he okay? Because you got to remember, her first introduction to you was you bringing her a giant thing of for the department, I guess. But you brought her things. You brought her things the first time you met her.
It was probably Snooki's cookies.
Yeah.
I never showed. Look, Martin Kierszenbaum over at Interscope Records, like Jimmy Iovine's right-hand guy, another great guy. Somehow, one time I brought chocolate cake to something at his office, not for him, for somebody else. And he's like, I show up next time and he's like, oh, where's the chocolate cake? For the next 10 years, I didn't fucking walk into Interscope Records without a sheet cake. And sometimes the note would say, here's your fucking cake.
Yeah, that's really what that is.
Here's your, and it's like, I remember one time, it's like, because I have that relationship with some people, it's like, I have a meeting, he'd be running late, I'd be waiting in his office, and here's his assistant with a panic look on her face, like, you can't sit at his desk with your feet up. I'm like, yeah, I can. Anybody else, he's going to walk in the office and throw out, But he would sit in the office, and he'd play along. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, Jacques. And then he would go and sit on the smallest, most uncomfortable chair. It's like, do you want me to sit here? But I would. But Snooki's Cookies in Burbank, I kept that fucking company going. If it was somebody's birthday at the label, look, dude, I had no marketable skills at all. My job was to get your ass to come check out the facility. If it was .360 and I got you to come check out how awesome the facility was, I'd hook you up with Dave, who was a tech guru. And then they would do the heavy lifting. And then I would take the client out to lunch. And then I would take the client to a King game. And then I would go drinking on 3rd Street Promenade with the client, come back the next day with work. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's it.
Yeah, but you're super talented. Yeah, but you sell yourself short. Your super talents are you're a very, very good producer, and you're also a very good salesperson. So that's a good combo, buddy.
But again, it's
all the great ones had that.
Hockey led to everything. Like hockey led to me meeting Jeff, getting the DVD, meeting to you, going down there. Through hockey, I met the guy who was head of Warner Brothers, who I'm still friends with this today. The guy was VP at Warner Brothers for Airman, just the greatest guy, Dear McQuinn. He manages like Michael Bublé, who, by the way, is getting ready to do the Barbara Fleet Suite, Sweeney Todd on Broadway. He's about to do Sweeney Todd on Broadway. I've worked literally 50 projects with Dearman. Greatest guy. Anyways, but back with you, Mike. So through all that, through the Capitol record stuff, yeah, I remember I would just bring stuff, and I did. I would never show up without a big basket. Look, I'm gonna bring $50 of cookies, feed everybody in the department, walk out of there with $5,000 worth of work.
Yeah, but you never, and with me, of course, you never ever had to do that.
No, but everybody benefits. Well, here's the method to the madness. I'm bringing cookies to the office that you can't possibly eat. They go in the conference room. Somebody ends up saying, dude, there's 10 pizzas here that this wingnut just showed up with. So they call their friend down in legal, down in video department. So now people are coming down 2 floors to have free pizza, coming up 2 floors. It's like, oh, who do we think? Oh, that guy over there. What are you doing here? Oh, Mike and I are working on this. Mike introduced me to Dennis, and Dennis and I are working on this. And now I'm in the office. It's like that. That's how you cast the web.
King of Schmooze. You did
That's
it.
it.
No, you're excellent. I love the projects that we worked on together. of course, we did the Olivia Newton-John's, those 2 video collections. We did with Jim Pearson. We did things like the Mamas and the Papas.
Yep.
And one of my favorites was the award-winning Suzanne Vega.
Yes.
Well, didn't really win any awards, but you know, I'm always known as the award-winning Suzanne Vega because I drove you guys totally nuts with that thing.
No, Mike, what you drove everybody nuts with is your fucking Rupert Holmes box set. What the fuck? Oh my God, the man hours.
Just the studio people.
Oh, Jesus Christ. And then I finally washed the stink off of that project that lasted 2 years, and then Guardians of the Galaxy come out and brings a Pina Colada song back into everybody's goddamn lexicon.
Ruby.
It literally, you worked on that goddamn thing for 2 years. It finally comes out. It took a decade to wash the stink off me, and then
be good, young man.
now some of the other interesting.
I love that damn thing.
No, I know.
I love that damn thing for a couple of different reasons. One is because we got everybody in the world who everybody loves Rupert. First of all, everybody makes fun of after the Pina Colada song. He kind of lost a little, cred there. But before that, he had an album called Widescreen, which was on Epic, which was very popular because it was popular, but nobody bought it. It's like WNEW, which was the major FM station in New York, used to play the crap out of it. And what's her name? Allison Steele, Nightbird.
Okay.
You played it on her.
Hold on.
She's on the album.
Look, I'm looking up my notes here. Oh yes, that's right here. No one fucking cares.
Nobody cares. Okay.
So now
Streisand grabbed him because of that. Point is.
No, I know.
Now, to this day, I am a huge Rupert fan, and we became very good friends.
So, Mike, I don't know.
More about Rupert.
No, Mike, I didn't even put this on my notes. I think I'm going to open you up to some PSD. I'm going to open myself up to some PSD. Mike,
just did with the Rupert.
No, Mike. So let's see. So we covered Rupert Holmes.
The award-winning Suzanne Vega.
We covered Suzanne Vega. We covered the Capitol Building. We covered Universal Music. Covered Billy Ray. Covered Bob Mercer.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Anthems. Mike,
Anthem.
I don't think. I think the NDA has expired. I think you can talk a little freely. Mike, what did you bring into our world? What did you bring into our world that when I try to tell people this story, I don't think anybody believes me? Who were you writing a biography for that you brought me over to their house several times?
Oh, the Joni Mitchell Project.
Yeah, the Joni Mitchell Project.
Yeah.
I don't.
You want me to, I can dive in. When you were talking about the 1 o'clock call from Billy Ray Cyrus, 1 o'clock in the morning call.
Yeah.
I had been working on project, just for your listeners, I guess I could jump in right here like that in the same way, where I was working on a couple of projects before that with Joni, and then and before this particular call this night, I get a call at about 3 a.m, and it's now this isn't really how Joni talks. I just think I'm just doing this to be a goof. But she calls at 3 a.m, and she goes, I pick up the phone and I'm like, hello. And she goes, how come Buffy St. Marie's Universal Soldier is always played on Pacifica, but they don't play any of my stuff? So I'm like, Joni? This is Joni. So, she, it sounds like I'm making fun of her. I'm not making fun of her. It's just that was the context. It was 3 a.m. She calls me about that. That was the thing. She's a night owl. Now, what most people don't know, she was a huge night owl. And so it was like, the 1 p.m. for her, So anyway, so we talked a little bit, and then we got, that was one of the couple of projects that we worked on together. Was I said, well, why don't we gather all of your, they don't know you for that. They know you loosely for, political stuff and political leanings. Why don't we gather all your political stuff, put it on a project? And it did. And she liked that idea, and eventually came out as The Beginning of Survival, which I love. It's all the rants in one place. Anyway, so the autobiography, the biography. We had a very good relationship. We had a lot of fun. I could tell you dinners.
You took me to a couple dinners, and one dinner we go to pick her up, and it's one of
the
those,
Ricky Gallo party.
I don't remember, but yeah, probably.
Okay.
But I remember it was
Richie
at,
Gallo, so that's how you listen. Richie Gallo was the sales guy over at Universal, and he decided he would throw her at his house a really nice party because he loved Joni. Everybody in the apartment loved Joni, and it was Joni Mitchell. You know, let's do something nice for her.
and it was one of those things where I look, mental illness is a real fucking thing. And there was moments where she was one of those people who truly believed, truly in her heart of hearts, she believed it. And who's to say she's wrong that the government sent helicopters out to shoot dumb rays, just randomly out to people, and that's how they controlled the masses. A helicopter would go by and she would hide behind the couch to prevent getting hit with the rays that the helicopters would shoot out. And for one reason, I don't know, maybe, I don't know why. I don't know if we were going to do something. I was going to work on the project or what, but you're like, oh, you have to meet Joni Mitchell. You bring me over. And it was one of those things where I'm getting out of the car and she wanted to come out of the house and you had to, for like a half hour, convince her that, you know, and you come back to the car and you're like, we might have to call you a cab because she doesn't want to get in the car because she doesn't know you. And then she finally did. And then she's like, oh, your name is Jacques. And she's like, that's very Canadian. Do you play hockey? I'm like, I do. And then she starts telling, oh, I wish Biff was on this podcast. She started having a relationship, I think, with the goalie for the New York Rangers in the 70s. And she starts telling all these 1970s New York Ranger stories. And I'm trying to think of who the goalie, if Biff said the name, I'd be like, yes, that's who she was talking about. Yeah. Oh, but one of the goalies, and then all of a sudden now I'm in. Yeah. You know, which means now she won't not talk to you. Right. And now when she goes into a party and she has real bad anxiety, I mean, the woman weighs 90 pounds soaking wet, but she would clutch onto your arm like she was crushing coal into a diamond, you know? And it was like, and somehow now all of a sudden we're at this party and I'm being directed to stand between her and who's ever coming up to her, you know, to kind of like.
With a muscle?
Yes.
To this day.
And you're there, like, and you're talking, and you're telling her, this is who it is. She works the label. This person does this. Like, I'm the person that they have to go through before they can say hi to her, and you're the person on her other side telling her it's okay. This person works the label.
She asked you to do that? So
no, she didn't. She just grabbed my arm. Oh my God. Hockey player, big guy. I'm gonna use him.
Oh, that's sweet. That's funny.
And you're whispering to her. No, it's fine. This person works in. It's an A&R person over there. Oh no. That you know that's this assistant. Oh no, this person's fine. Yeah. Wouldn't eat food because she didn't know where the food came from. You know, out the thing. And then we stopped somewhere on the way back. But then, you know, I remember she's a chain smoker. Mike is the same with me. Mike can't be in the same zip code with somebody smoking. You go out and you don't want to tell her in her own house. You're transcribing notes trying to do an autobiography. You are maybe 50 sessions deep. You're getting emphysema. You get this thing to blow basically clean air into your face.
Yeah.
Which she thinks is some government device.
Exactly now. I mean, I do block, buddy. There a lot of that
stuff.
But she wasn't happy. I remember she just wasn't happy with my wearing that, and then I had to take it off because it was like, oh, this is upsetting her. I can't do this, so I had to take it off. But
yes, but I mean, you've brought Bob Mercer into my life. You've brought, you brought Capitol Building into my life. You brought Billy Ray into my life. Ramon, Mike brought his great friend Ramon. Who's
before we get into Ramon, because Ramon.
We won't. But I'm just saying, all the people, like, I'm friends with Ramon. The three of us are on a text chain. I've become friends with Dennis over the years. I got to have one-on-one lunches with Bob Mercer half a dozen times. I got, to manage Billy Ray. All of this from my buddy Mike. Thank goodness the Almost Brothers didn't break, because our paths would have never crossed.
Oh, you never know. I would have probably.
So you and I will post it, released a box set about 2 years ago. You remastered everything. How many Mike Ragogna solo albums was on that collection?
8? It was
8 albums.
No, just 4, but it felt like 8. I think it was 4 with bonus tracks.
Well,
And
I'm talking. You included all the B-side Japanese only released single tracks
Yeah,
you
pretty
had
much.
on there.
Yeah, yep. And also my buddy, the almost brother, Steve Mosto, who I had a career with we shouldn't have been in country music for about 10 minutes. We were very close over the years, and I co-wrote a lot of stuff with him. And I was involved with, I co-wrote a bunch of stuff with him for his, he was working on a project with his sister Joanne, and this drummer Chris Bowman, and they called themselves Bone People. And I helped oversee a lot of that. But anyway, my point is that from my first, oh God, how do I do this? The first album, the only albums that I care about that I feel are solid albums were the last 4 that I've ever done, because I did a bunch of stuff before that, but that stuff was just mishmash and all over the place. The last 4, Minefield Diaries, Invisible World, which I couldn't release at the time as Invisible World, but we'll get to that. And then Writer's Block, which I had. And then my last one, which was Summerland. All of those come under the heading of California Chronicles, because I did most of the recording in California and most of the bonus mixes and all of that.
Is Superman on Writer's Block? Is Superman on Writer's Block?
Yes, it is.
See? I've listened.
You did. Thank you. So Superman, yeah, I do a cover of Superman. Writer's Block, I actually had writer. That's a third of this quadrilogy. And I did Superman. I did John Mayer's Neon. I did speaking of Joni, I did her Night Ride Home, which I think is one of her most overlooked, wonderful songs. So I did a medley of that and Some Kind of Wonderful. It's one of my favorite recordings that I ever did. I played it for her at her house, and I said, Johnny, I got to play you this. So I played it for her, and she goes, "Oh, I get it. You're a crooner." And I was like, okay, I'm not playing her or anything.
So you've had this solo career. Another thing that is a lost art that maybe is coming back now that records are selling great again. Another.
And by the way, so are CDs. CDs have suddenly started picking up again.
They're coming back. But what has become a lost art that maybe is coming back, that is another pie that you had your fingers in, is liner note writing. You were a very successful liner note writer for a lot of amazing albums and projects.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of it came from, of course, the connection, because I was overseeing compilations. I was producing compilations for various labels, first with Razor and Tie, and then onward through, actually DCC Compact Classics, but I like to leave that period of my life out of the mix. But Razor and Tie was the first place where I truly loved my bosses, Cliff Chenfeld and Craig Balsam, who went on to Craig Balsam. You would love Craig's wife, she's like a major lawyer in Major League in the NFL. And Craig now oversees and invests in and is a producer in Broadway musicals and Broadway plays that actually get the Tonys.
That's fantastic.
He's amazing. But anyway, they allowed me to spread my wings and be a compilation producer over there. And I got the taste of that. And then while I was doing the compilations, it's like, well, instead of spending money on liner note writers, I want to do this. And then they gave me permission to do that. So that's where that started.
You've done so many of those. We're going to start wrapping it up, but I have to say, it's like, of all the amazing people that I've got to meet, and it's funny, it all stems through hockey at one point or another. But I got to manage Billy Ray. I got to manage a household name artist. I got into the world of booking celebrities to do halftime shows and anthems, which ended up having me work with Cheap Trick a couple times. Which had me working with Train, which had me working with,
that's right. I remember that. Yeah.
So many people, all because of that connection through you. I mean, you did the New Jersey Devil thing. Just going down the list again, the Bob Mercer, that story with Bohemian Rhapsody, and just pulling one over on top of the pops and making a song number one that had no radio play. I mean, absolutely. But I also, want to touch, before I let you go, many years ago, when I moved to Qatar, around the time that, we moved to Qatar, Mike moved to Iowa. Like life just, took everybody in different directions. We remained close. Mike is what I think is let me look at the notes here from 1934. Mike is what's known as a confirmed bachelor, but yet somehow
Well,
you became part of the foster system in the state of Iowa.
yeah.
Much to the surprise of everyone.
yeah, me too. Much to the surprise of me. Lisa,
Go ahead.
yeah, I'm sorry. Lisa Cohen, I credit her to it. Lisa Cohen, I was in a relationship and the relationship had ended and I was trying to help promote her son because he was an amazing guitarist, a really good songwriter. Everybody loved him. I took him around the music business and it was like.
I remember this. You took him to New York. You took him to Cashman and West or to Razor Tide.
Tommy West, that's right. I took him to
Tommy West. Yep.
So anyway, but he was great. So anyway, the point is that, the relationship ended, the kid, that whole thing ended. And I was like, I realized during that whole thing, it's like, okay, I need a break from relationships. We're done with relationships for a while. And then my friend Lisa Cohen said to me, well, have you thought about maybe the thing that you really like to do and that you seem to, to be gravitating towards? Why don't you look into foster care? She was on the foster care review board for the county that I lived in at the time. So I said, well, kids, full time, I don't know. And then she said, no, look into this. I did. And then I ended up, I have an old, I mentioned not Cashman West. I mentioned Craig Bosman, Cliff Chenfeld earlier from Razor and Tie, right?
Yes.
I had called them and I said, I've got to get out of Iowa. This is driving me crazy. I'm losing my mind, whatever. What happened was I took courses to become a foster care parent. They introduced me to kids that were so challenged that I just knew there was nothing I was going to be able to do for them other than warehouse them. And I wasn't willing to do that. That isn't what I was looking for out of life. So what I did was I called Cliff and Craig and I said, what do you think? You got anything in New York? So Cliff had has a kid who was really great, talented in New York. And he said, yeah, why don't you come back and, help my kid with songwriting and all that. And I grabbed a house in Greenpoint, New York. I had the deposit down it was an apartment. I had everything ready to go. U-Haul, boxes, bubble wrap, the whole deal. So psyched, ready to get the hell out of Iowa. And then I get a call from the foster care people and they say, you got to meet this kid. And I'm like, no, I'm moving in a couple of weeks, literally 2 weeks away. I'm moving to Brooklyn. So they go, no, really, you have to meet this kid. And I said, if I meet him, I don't want to get his hopes up. I don't want him to get his hopes up because he's, and they said, guaranteed you will like this kid. And I'm like, okay, all right. So I went and they introduced me to Brandon, and Brandon was adorable. He was amazing. He was a great kid. He'd only had, he hadn't gone through the system for very long, although he'd had a very traumatized, troubled childhood because of his history, because of the adults in his life that just were horrible to him. So anyway, I spent the weekend with this kid. They were going to put him into this. They were going to put him in anyway. They were going to put him into this place that had kids that they were like murderers, where they put kids a shelter, where they put kids that were like beyond. And there's this sweet little kid with like a Superman book under his arm. By the way, Superman yet again into this theme here. So I couldn't let him go to that. So I said, okay, how about this? They made him stay there one night. And then I said, let me take him for the weekend. So I did. It was a long weekend, Thursday through Sunday. And then at the end of that, I said, can he stay? He's a great kid. And I called Cliff and I said, Cliff, let's take a pass on this for now. I said, keep me in the loop, but let's take a pass on this for now. I have to help this kid. And then Brandon, I ended up eventually 6 months later, I ended up adopting him. He was an amazing kid.
Okay, so you end up adopting Brandon, who's gone on to be a absolute productive member of society. Great job. Has a significant other that has, you're going through that thing that so many parents do. It's like, oh, I raised this kid right to be strong and independent and be on his own. And now he's on his own in another state with somebody else, type thing. But you screwed up and you did such a great job that the state turned around and said, hey, we want you to do more. It's like one of those things. Like, that's why I won't change a light bulb in the house, because if my management finds out I can actually fix things, I have to do it all the time. So but you didn't learn that lesson. So now they came back to you and said, hey, we'd like you to do more. And so
Right.
what has happened since then?
Well, I first I mentored this kid Skylar, and then he became my foster child. And he is so smart, it's ridiculous. He's so smart. He's got a personality that is just over the top. He's like there's no off switch. And he's pretty smart. I mean, in school too. He had a lot of a lot of challenges in his early life, and he's dealing with it as best he can. And I love this kid. I love both my kids.
Well, and it's
I'm
funny.
going to eventually adopt Skylar, if the opportunity is available.
Because that's something that Mike and I have talked through together. Our youngest is very much, it sounds like has some of the same challenges that Skylar does. One of the problems is he's way too smart. The world moves too slow for him.
They get bored easily. Yeah.
Like, my little guy is constantly waiting for everybody to catch up to him. Does not have the ability to turn the brain off. I mean, severe ADHD, but it is. I mean, there's just these challenges, but on the other hand, it's like, yeah, that's who he is, and he's awesome. You know what I mean? And it's like,
right.
It's like, it's getting the world to understand that it's like, yeah, he's not neurotypical, but that's, like anything else, like a mutant from the X-Men. It's like, yeah, but these things that are seen as challenges are also gifts and also opportunities to do certain things. But
perfect.
The world doesn't see that sometimes. I mean, and I get it. You've got 30 kids in a fucking classroom, and it's hard if one or two of them just doesn't fit in the round hole. And it's like, and then luckily we live in a state that we've gotten the mental health help that we needed early on, that we've gotten IEPs to help. And then when things go off the track, the fact that, our little guy has 2 pit bull for parents who are like, no, this is not a behavioral issue. This is a medical issue that manifests as a behavioral issue, and we're going to treat it like a medical issue first. And some people don't get that. And it's like, you and I have had these conversations, and it's like everything that you've told me about Skylar, it's like, oh yes, he's describing, my youngest one. And it's just, it's tough.
I can't believe the amount I've learned from the trauma. Brandon, not so much. Brandon, because he had everything he was just very pointed with everything that he wanted to do. He was always, I never had to worry. In other words, I never had to worry about Brandon. He's going to have to deal with some stuff eventually, like we all do. With Skylar, he educated me, because the traumas that he went through as a child, apparently there are triggers, and I learned about triggers. I learned about stuff that I had gone through in my childhood. Stuff just keeps coming up. I'm not going to share, but coming up, it would be boring anyway. But the point is that we have grown together, because I have learned, just as people like the foster care system, let's say, nothing against the foster care system, they're doing their best, but on the other hand, they are always trying to make the square peg fit in the round hole. Always. Because they don't have enough resources. They don't have enough shelters, or etc. Shelters, the whole deal with shelters, it just drives me crazy. But the point is that he has helped me grow, because I never knew some of this stuff, but I never thought of it. I never had the context of thinking of some of the stuff in my life or in his life the way I do now. And it's so forgiving. Don't you feel like you because of the stuff your kid is going through, it's like you can almost, I don't want to say forgive yourself. It isn't about that, but it's understanding. That's the word. Better word.
100%, right. And I was a very challenging kid growing up. Everybody who's ever lived with me will tell you I'm a very challenging adult. But I've learned them, and that's, and some of the stuff that I learned, that, because growing up with a single parent, not knowing, and again, it's just a different world. People didn't know about certain things, and that's why, I've been able to learn, like you're saying, about myself over the last few years, where I'm like, oh, I need to handle these things differently. Okay, I'm reacting like this, but it is. So everything that you've told me about Skylar, it's like, it's one of those things. It's like, all the pieces of the puzzle are on the table, and it's just helping him fit them together to and I don't want to say like to fit into society, because I don't want my little guy to fit into society. I want society to fit into him. You know what I mean? To like, I don't want to bend his will. It's like, are these things annoying? Are these things tough to deal with? But at the same time, the brilliance that comes out of him sometimes, the humor that comes out of him sometimes, because he
has no option.
Just because he sees things so differently. You know what I mean? And it's funny, and it's like, you know, and because he's in a better place with an IP, and we've worked really hard with the school. But there's one of those things where, you know, there's nothing, you know, adults hate wrong than being corrected by a child, except when the child's right. Then they really hate it, you know.
Right, yeah.
And when he's been like, no, you know, 1 plus 2 equals 3, and you're saying it's 4, you know, type thing. So, you know, so Skylar has a lot of the same challenges, and some of those challenges is on his end, and some of the challenges is the people around him and the mental health profession and you know, need to understand that they need to do it differently, you know.
Well, he loves to make videos, and the thing is, it's like he has a creative. He's an art. He loves to. He's an artist. He loves to do things with art. So it's that side of the brain that he's that will be his super power when he eventually, you know, gets rid of all the hormonal stuff and gets rid of all the challenging stuff. He's going to be. I mean, I see the same thing for him. He's just going to be, when he's let loose, you know, on the world. I'll bet you he can do some really great stuff eventually.
I just like, it's just one of those things, like state by state, how Massachusetts and how California deal with the social safety net and mental health issues and IEPs and stuff like that. Well, not, you know, from town to town, it's different. But no, Mike, you know, I'm going to wrap this up because I think this might be on record. It's the longest podcast ever. But again, I mean, you know, the friendship that I've had with you that has opened up doors, because when people are like, wait a minute, because it's been 10 years, God, it was 15, no, because my oldest guy was just being born around the time I'm really in the weeds with Billy, so it's over 15 years ago. But yeah, the fact that you know, my little guys didn't know him at the time, and it's like, and he wasn't in their radar, you know. But then Old Town Road comes out, and I'm like, yeah, that's the guy I've been telling you. Like, that's the guy that I've, you know, all this stuff with. But again, you know, the Bob Mercer, the Capitol Records, the bringing people like Ramon into my world, and you know, the stories about Joni Mitchell that I have, that again, nobody believes, you know, the tinfoil hat stuff, you know. And Bob Davidson, I think that's the name of the goalie from the New York Rangers. She had, you know, a thing within the 70s. But yeah, as soon as she was comfortable being in the car, finds out I'm a hockey player, instantly associated, okay, I'm going to this party I don't want to go to. I have anxiety, but I'm going to use this hockey player. I'm going to use Mike to be the filter system to tell me who's coming over to say hi to me and fawn over me. And if I don't feel comfortable, you know, this guy with bad teeth and, you know, hair, and obviously knows it's been busted, is going to stand in front of me.
Now, you know what? The one thing on my so my last album, Summerland, I wrote a song called Blue about our time together. And I mean, we were friends. I was there a lot of nights. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And especially during when, you know, I was doing the biography with her, the autobiography with her. But that ended. We should make clear that ended where she decided not to do it. She decided, like, after a lot of recording and stuff, she decided she wanted to go to, it was that time of year when she goes to her cabin in Canada and does artwork. So right. She took a break, and then from that break, she couldn't get back into the book. And then it was sort of became a less important kind of thing. And then she's tried to pick it up, I think, over the years a couple of times more, but it never is we may never see an autobiography of Joni Mitchell. I hope we do someday.
Well, no, I mean, you know, there will be a time when you might have the opportunity to write a biography of her, because you have all the stories in the mind. But Mike, I'm sorry it's taken over 300 episodes to get you on the podcast.
Oh no, I'm happy to be here. I love the show. You guys are like pals. It's like sitting around with pals. It's
Well,
really fun to listen to.
I apologize. The number one thing that Biff and Joe do very well is kind of keep me in check. But there were no guardrails up today. I wrote out the things I wanted to talk about, but I couldn't help but going off the rails here and there. But no, I mean, it's funny because I've gotten rid of almost everything over the years. I've really become a minimalist, but now and then I'll like the one or two bins I still have out in the shed. I'll be like, I'll pick it up. I'm like, oh, and then you'll see on the credits, it's like, there's me and Mike, you know what I mean? Or one of our other friends, like, Dan, there's for Jeff that, have crossed paths with it. And it's like, yeah, no, it's like well over 200 projects,
Hopefully you still have the award-winning Suzanne Vega.
Dude, that's mounted on the wall, like it's right next to the framed writer's block, no, but
The plaque I made you for, okay, yeah.
Oh, but like I said, it's like it's the first time you come into Point 360, with Jeff. Instantly, we get to talking, went out to lunch, and it's been a hell of a ride since. I haven't seen you physically in a while. There's talks of another cross country drive with my boys and I this summer. A lot of different pieces are on the table. We might be in Chicago for a little bit for management's work. We don't know, but
That's 3.5 hours away. You better call.
How far?
3.5.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, no. Without, is there a Six Flags near you? Because we usually plot our course because our Six Flags passes work everywhere.
I think it's near. I think it might be near Kansas City. I don't really know the Six Flags thing. Brandon never liked it.
Yeah. No. We will and at the same time, like in my office here, we just for the last 10 days had you remember our great friend Renetsky. She was just here for 10 days. I mean, the great thing about living where we do, for what we rented, the last place that we lived in Playa del Rey, when we left there, it was $2,200 a month for that 840 square foot mansion. That 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, tiny thing. But we were 5 houses from the sand. Like literally, we didn't.
That place.
Yeah, we didn't need management and I lived at 3 places together, in LA before we moved. One in Venice, one in Marina del Rey, and one in Playa del Rey. We never needed one of those noise machines at night because we've always lived close enough to the water. It's just like open the goddamn window. Why have a wave machine when we have the actual waves right there? That apartment now, because we're still friends with the woman who lives in the other unit in the duplex, $3,800. $3,800 for 800 and a 2-bedroom, 840 square feet. So for half of that, that's a tough thing when we talk about moving back. For half of that, we have a 4-bedroom, 2.5 acres, in-ground pool, and a town that has been nothing but wonderful, as far as like different. We love it. We absolutely love it here. We miss home. We miss LA. But my point is, there's always a room at the inn for you, baby Jesus. You don't have to sleep out there in the barn with all the livestock. There's always room. There's room for you and Skylar. If Brandon and his betrothed ever do like, hey, let's go check out the East Coast, friend or a friend. It's like, here's a key. Here's your room. You enjoy. Hopefully, I will see you this summer.
We may take you up on that. I have to take Skylar someplace. I took Brandon everywhere. I haven't taken Skylar anywhere yet.
I met you. I had moved out of LA, but for some reason I was in town for a day, and we met at a Denny's with Brandon. I think that's the one time. Right. Like I'm like, okay, that
was in California.
California. That was in California.
That was when he had an internship with a guy with a medical device company, and they had him building an R2D2.
Oh.
It's like, what? The guy's like, yeah, this guy's smart enough. He could do this. And they showed him how, of course. But it's like, it was an amazing. That's why that kid, I have no worries. He makes more money than I do. So, and he's happier. He's actually very, very content. And I'm so glad I looked into figuring out how to have a family of my own, because I was
Like I
relying
said,
on other people and their families.
like I said,
Vicariously through them. It was awful.
like I said, you did such a you screwed up and did such a good job that you created this kid who could move away and be independent and all that stuff, and then the state turns around and says, "Okay, here's another one," because you did so great. But
Try
Mike,
this one.
right, Mike, this was absolutely great. I'm gonna text you and ask you to post certain things that we talked about, like if you can find that Peter Stays, Spidey Goes.
I have a picture of it. I do.
Picture of it, that's great. I mean, the song even might be on YouTube somewhere. That'd be
Yeah, it
absolutely
is.
great.
And so is the by the way, my Atari Pole Position.
Hey!
Yes?
You look like a real jerk.
Well, I am a corporate executive.
He stops exciting things from happening.
So what you doing?
Well, Muffy, Buffy, Biff Jr. and I are going on our Sunday drive.
Oh, no, you're not. You're gonna play pole position! This way, Clarence! Aw, too bad. Having a good time? Atari's Pole Position. It'll turn your eyeballs into steel-belted radials.
From the I sang on it. I didn't write it, but I sang on it in 1984.
Wait. Now Joe will be regretting not being here. What did you sing on?
Pole Position. It was a classic Pole Position commercial, Atari Pole Position, with the family on the
Yeah.
racetrack. It was Muffy, Buffy, Biff Jr. and it was that commercial. I
Oh
sang
my
it.
goodness. Okay, you're gonna have to find that and post it. If we can find the Devil's thing, I will post a link to the "I Want My Mullet Back" video. Dude, that stupid song, that out of pocket cost me about $250. For just beer and pizza for the guys. And it led to a 3-hour Thanksgiving special. It led to me doing 100 anthems. It led to, we actually shot 2 pilots out of that. I ended up shooting a pilot for CMT with Billy. We went to we spent a weekend at the Bristol racetrack what is it? It's not in North Carolina, wherever the Bristol racetrack is. I can post a link to that. I don't think I'm supposed to, but I think the NDA has expired since then from NASCAR. What are you going to sue me for? What, you're going to get my Batman cutout? Joe just gave me the figurines from the Sabotage video. It's like, you're going to sue me for those motherfuckers? Come and get them. Prying for my cold dead hands. But no, Mike, our ride together has been absolutely great. It's taken a little bit of a pause, but I'm hoping to cause more trouble, going forward. It's amazing the stuff that you've done in your career as an artist, that you've done in your career as an A&R guy, as a producer, and as a foster dad. So the world's a better place because the son of Antilio is still walking among us.
Yeah, he's still for the moment. He's a little old now. It's very hard. It's like I look in the mirror and I'm like, wait a minute, when did I become one of those old people? It's a different kind of thing. But on the other hand, because I still have I'm still like 24 or whatever the heck in my mind. So it's been a grind, and because of people, by the way, because of you, my friendship with you, it kept me young, and I had a lot of fun in California based on our friendship. We had a lot of good times. You were my best friend in California, absolutely. And it was just, I'm glad, and you're giving me a lot of credit. Please don't give me all the credit. Don't give me credit like that. You are the one that pulled all of this off. You're the one that had the talent. You're the one that has the ability to connect with people on a level that's you just disarm them instantly. You're really, really good at that. I mean, just in a good way. You disarm them and you don't take advantage of them. You actually, you become friends with them. It isn't like you're just doing work with someone. They're in your family after that point.
Yeah, all stems from Snooki's cookies.
I don't know
It all stems from.
I'm working you for the Snookies.
I gotta see if I can make them special. Mike, I'm gonna let you go enjoy whatever you have planned the rest of this afternoon in Iowa. And no, seriously, you're missed and you're the best, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, buddy. Thanks for having me on.
You're riding someone else's dreams. Are you sick of endless clouds and faces in the tired scenery? Well, choice comes at you with a wink, and life will change before you blink. The future's always flying much faster than you think. Mind uncertain, good intentions, nowhere near plan. Traveling in circles, waiting for the plane to land. So the mirror will not play nice as you see through all those bloodshot lies. What did that ticket say? Did it tell you there were